Breaking right now, families of 3 firefighters killed in a vacant home collapse now plan to sue the city. What they're demanding. The mayor's decision to expand his gun violence reduction strategy being called irresponsible. Why the city's police union says this will put a bigger strain on a department already stretched too thin. Then, Fox 45 News investigates transparency concerns within the Safe Streets program. Plus, how one city council member is pushing back against term limits overwhelmingly approved by voters.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Breaking news tonight, 12 months after 3 Baltimore firefighters were killed fighting a vacant house fire, their families have officially put the city on notice, informing city leaders of their intent to sue. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mackenzie Frost in for Mary tonight. The family saying the deaths of the firefighters could have been prevented.
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has been following this news. She's live right now with the very latest. Maxine?
Well, Kai and Mackenzie, they plan to sue the city, the state, the fire department, and many others, saying this has nothing to do with money, but this is about accountability. We are here right now along Stricker Street, where that fire happened nearly a year ago on January 24th, taking the lives of Kelsey Sadler, Paul Buttram, and Kenny Lacayo, injuring another firefighter, John McMaster. Their families gathering here today to speak about this announcement, saying this was completely a preventable tragedy and that the firefighters had no idea that they were walking into a death trap here on that day. The home had been on fire twice before, was completely abandoned and very dangerous, and they had no idea as they were heading here because the home had not been marked and they were not alerted by anyone that it had been on fire before. Now, they list several reasons in this claim, including the city's vacant home crisis, the lack of marking dangerous vacant homes, and they say the city and state have been negligent, that this home, they should have torn this home down before. We spoke with Kelsey Sadler's husband, who says this is about protecting the lives of future firefighters.
I don't know if anything will help. We're never going to get her back, any of them. But it's going to save other families from having to deal with it later. Because it's never going to stop. These buildings are going to keep falling down. They're going to keep catching on fire. And nobody's going to know. And they're going to go in, and it's going to happen again. And again and again. And the city's not going to care again and again and again. And somebody else is going to be standing just like we are.
Well, this comes after that investigative report was released Friday on the fire. It was a scathing report that listed many recommendations for the fire department. And on that same day, the city's fire chief, Niles Ford, he resigned. We did reach out to the mayor's office for their comment about the plan to sue, and they told us tonight they have no comment. But a very emotional day for the family. Some of them, this was their first time coming back to this site since the day of the tragedy, so you can imagine just how difficult that had been for them. We'll have more at 5, but live for now in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Fox 45 News was the first to break the word on this lawsuit on our website. You can catch up on all of our previous coverage right now at foxbaltimore.com.
We have more breaking news to report. A 14-year-old has been arrested after a shooting this morning at a Maryland school. This is a look at Suitland High School. That's in Prince George's County. Police say the 14-year-old shot another 14-year-old during some kind of dispute. Sources tell us that the student was shot in the hand. Now, that shooting happened on school grounds near the football field. It is under investigation.
In a city in crisis, Baltimore is once again seeing more than 300 people killed this year. It's a deadly cycle of violence the city has not been able to break for 8 years now. And
this violence continues as city leaders announce its gun violence reduction strategy will be expanding in 2023. Alexa Ashwell is live right now with why the police union believes this will not only be ineffective, but an added strain on officers who are already in short supply. Right, Alexa?
Kai, yes, the Baltimore Police Union believes the expansion of this strategy is, quote, irresponsible, saying simply the department needs more officers.
Good afternoon.
Concern as the city prepares to expand the mayor's gun violence reduction strategy, happening now in the Western District to next year, also including the Southwestern District. The Baltimore Police Union today submitting this letter. The FOP president writing in part, GVRS is a personnel-intensive program that requires many more officers than the BPD has at its disposal.
The expansion of GVRS from one district to two does not mean that we replicate the number of people that already exist in the group violence unit.
And so the question, how can BPD successfully expand GVRS, an approach that aims to reduce homicides and shootings by identifying and approaching high-risk individuals with the same amount of manpower? As it stands, there are approximately 442 unfilled sworn positions within the Baltimore Police Department. Statistics from BPD also show more officers are leaving than the number joining the department. As of November, 87 officers have joined the force this year, but 250 officers have left the department. The commissioner admitting the reality behind these numbers will present further challenges as GVRS continues to expand.
That will always present challenges because as you look at the rate we're hiring and the rate people are leaving, and we're trying to bring more people on quickly, and we're trying to keep more people on longer. That's always going to be a challenge, but that's why we have to be smart about the use of our resources, and that's why we have to be smart about the strategy.
But the union argues, and police experts have said, adding more police is the solution. It was the answer to the chaos and violence in Fells Point, the Inner Harbor, and most recently, Federal Hill, the department beefing up patrols in those areas and curbing the violence.
In addition to more police, the FOP in the letter also stating for a need for a viable prosecution style. As we know, we will soon have a new Baltimore City State's Attorney. Reporting live in Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thanks. As our investigation into Safe Streets continues, Council President Nick Mosby raising even more questions about the apparent lack of oversight and how the organizations operating the Safe Streets locations are spending your tax dollars. I question the community-based organizations, or CBOs, about how they are spending that money and why the public doesn't seem to know that information. Inside City Hall, questions about how tax dollars are being spent once the money is given to fund Safe Streets. That's the gun violence prevention and intervention program with 10 different locations all around the city. But where the millions of dollars go once it's given to the community groups remains unclear. Even City Council President Nick Mosby isn't sure. Do you know how the CBOs spend the money?
I don't understand the question.
Do you know how the CBOs are spending the money that the city allocates to them in terms of who they're paying salaries to, how they're funding the training, who does the training?
No, I do not.
Shouldn't you?
Again, the way that you're asking the question, we're doing it in a lump. You have to ask specific questions about specific Safe Streets, about specific organizations.
Come January, Catholic Charities and LifeBridge Health Center for Hope will oversee the Safe Streets programs at all 10 locations. Both nonprofits get money from the taxpayers and have a responsibility to be transparent about where that money is going. So we sent them a few questions asking, how much money do you receive from the city annually for the implementation of Safe Streets? What's the breakdown of your budget for the program? How much will that budget increase when the expansion in programs begins in January? How much is spent on salaries? And what are the salaries for each Safe Streets employee? Catholic Charities ignoring our questions. LifeBridge Health telling Fox 45 News they couldn't meet our deadline for a response. Meanwhile, as the transition continues to put a more centralized management of the Safe Streets program in place, which has been plagued with accountability and performance concerns, Council President Mosby passes off answering questions. Well, the two Safe Streets organizations, the CBOs that will be managing it, Catholic Charities and LifeBridge,
have done an amazing job in the past. So I think your question is probably more germane to the way it was run prior to them taking over. And I think that that's the difficulty or the lack of information that you have to ask a question that is specific.
Well, I mean, we've been asking the city for over a year for this specific information. So if you have that information, I'd love to see it.
I believe the program just recently switched.
Catholic Charities and LifeBridge have always operated some of the Safe Streets locations, though.
I think that's what I just communicated to you. But now they're taking over all of them. Right. So I think that what I communicated to you is that in the past, the way that they've been operating has been pretty sufficient. It's been really good. Now, if your question is about the way other organizations were operating in the past, we would have to talk about the specifics associated with that.
So each CBO spent the money differently, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Where can we see how they spent that money?
Talk to the mayors about that.
The Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, oversees the Safe Streets program, and the director, Shantae Jackson, refuses to sit down for an interview with us to talk about how Safe Streets operates and how the city tracks the spending of your tax dollars. Now, Fox 45 News is committed to demanding accountability from our elected leaders. Head to our website, foxbaltimore.com, to see our continued push for transparency.
The term limits Baltimore voters overwhelmingly decided on last month are back up for debate. Tonight, Baltimore City Councilman Ryan Dorsey is introducing a bill that would repeal the city's newly passed term limits for elected officials. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has details and is pressing Dorsey on his decision to go against the majority of Baltimore City voters. Rebecca, what are you finding out?
Yeah, Guy, this bill, it's going to be up for discussion at tonight's city council meeting, and it's already expected to make waves. Now, Councilman Dorsey's pitch to repeal these term limits, it comes just 1 month after an overwhelming majority of voters put them in place. You may remember it as Question K on your ballot. 72% of voters passed that amendment. But now Dorsey is already trying to walk back that decision that his constituents made. He's proposing a counter ballot to that question that would appear in 2024. That would repeal the newly established 8-year term limits for elected city leaders. It's a move political expert John Deedy calls a slap in the face to voters.
You have a political leader saying, and we don't think you know better. We know better. We should, we should do something about this. And, basically what we should do is, let's pass something that totally, null and voids what voters said they wanted 2 years ago. And let's re-vote on it again. That's what he's really doing.
Now, I've reached out to Dorsey several times today requesting a comment here. He has ignored those requests, but we're hoping to speak with him at tonight's council meeting. It's scheduled to start at 5 p.m., so just an hour from now. Meanwhile, I also reached out to all 14 council members, but so far, Councilman Yitzi Slifer was the only one to respond. He tells me he is strongly against this bill and says that Dorsey should be respecting the will of the voters that he serves. So his stance is very clear here. We'll see what the other council members have to say tonight. But for now, reporting live outside of City Hall, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News is investigating Mayor Scott and a campaign donation he's accepted. This comes after returning similar contributions some 3 years ago. The latest campaign finance report shows Mayor Brandon Scott accepted a $5,000 contribution from a Columbia businessman, J.P. Grant, the same businessman who, according to court records, quote, illegally gave $170,000 to former Mayor Catherine Pugh. Fox 45's Jeff Abel questioned Mayor Scott.
That's a contribution. There's nothing else to say.
You condemned it, though, 3 years ago.
No, I want you to go back and look at what I said 3 years ago. I think that we have a justice process in our city, in our state, in our country, and that was followed.
You can see the full report coming up at 5 o'clock tonight. And we want to know what you think. Here's our question of the day. Do you trust city leaders with your tax dollars? So far, 89% say no. 2% say yes. You can weigh in on our question of the day right now on our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote.
WNBA star Brittany Griner is released from Russian detainment. I'm Atrell Nashar with what we're learning about the prisoner swap that set her free and why it didn't include Paul Whelan.
Operation of the troubled Back River water treatment plant is set to be turned over to Baltimore. But with DPW experiencing a worker shortage, is the city ready to take care of the plant?
And you don't have to drink and drive today, this holiday season, or really ever. How Maryland is giving away free credits to take a Lyft.
And temperatures falling from the 50s back into the 40s, 5, 6, 7 o'clock this evening for heading on home on the PM commute. I'll let you know what's happening in those weekend snow chances and that potential around here. My Weather Authority forecast.
Back right now with the Fox 45 quad box. On the top left, Idaho police now have a vehicle of interest in the murder of 4 college students. Investigators say they believe whoever was in that car was outside the apartment when the murders took place about a month ago.
Top right, the House passing legislation to protect same-sex and interracial marriage. And now heads to President Joe Biden's desk.
On the bottom left, children from the age of 6 months old to 5 years of age now eligible to get more protection from COVID-19. The FDA signed an updated vaccine from Pfizer for kids.
And bottom right, Celine Dion is halting all performances after being diagnosed with a rare neurological disorder. The 54-year-old powerhouse singer revealing she's battling stiff person syndrome, which is making it hard for her to walk and sing.
Back right now, major news. This is a live look at San Antonio's airport in Texas, where we're expected to see WNBA star Brittany Griner arrive. After 9 months in a Russian detention, Griner is finally free. You're looking at video from just hours ago as Griner makes her way back onto American soil. Now, Griner's release was part of a prisoner swap with a Russian arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death.
Yeah, the fight continues for families of other Americans wrongfully detained abroad, like Paul Whelan, who's been held in Russia since 2018 on espionage charges.
National correspondent Dr. El Nashar has the latest on what we know about the prisoner swap and what's next for Whelan.
News of WNBA star Brittany Griner's release bringing feelings of relief and overwhelming joy for her supporters and family.
Just sincere gratitude for President Biden and his entire administration.
Also in contact with the administration is Paul Whelan's family. His twin brother David says they were given a heads up about the swap that freed Griner and that it would not include Paul. In July, CNN reported the administration originally offered to exchange arms dealer Victor Boot, also known as the Merchant of Death, for both Griner and Whelan. On Thursday, the White House said it was a one-for-one deal.
That was always the goal, to get both of them home, and we just couldn't make it work. This was the deal we could get, and now was the moment we could get it.
Whelan telling CNN Thursday Russia is singling him out, pointing to a fellow prisoner also from a Western country.
Even though we're both here for espionage, I'm treated much differently than he is. And my treatment is also much different than others held for espionage at other prisons.
There are worries about the danger that comes with returning Boot back to Russia in exchange for Griner's release.
This will only beget more Americans being taken on specious charges, much like Brittany Griner, much like Paul Whelan were taken, right? These aren't comparable. This guy was a bad guy, moving arms around the world, threatening the United States of America.
Mickey Bergman works in hostage negotiations and told our chief political correspondent Scott Thuman earlier this year, while nobody likes releasing guilty people in return for the innocent, he's come to develop a strong opinion about doing what it takes to get Americans back home.
And there's a price that we might not like, but we have to pay for it because it's our obligation to bring them back home.
As for whether this trade incentivizes hostile countries to detain more Americans, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says that's already something Russia and other countries have proven they're willing to do. In Washington, I'm Atrell Nashar.
Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab.
A program to prevent drunk driving during the holiday season is making a return.
That's right. The State Department of Transportation is providing rideshare credits to Marylanders to help get them home safely from holiday celebrations. 4,000 Lyft Ride credits worth $5 each will be available on Thursdays through Sundays through the end of the month. By the way, you can redeem the credit between 4 in the afternoon and 2 o'clock in the morning this weekend using the code SAFERIDE2022.
And some of you have been sending us your photos. Look at that, sharing how you're getting ready for the holidays. This photo is from Michael as his niece Carmen gets ready for her very first Christmas. Check this one out from Karen, her dog Daisy, also getting into the holiday spirit. We love to see it. And if you're looking for fun ways to celebrate the holiday, you can scan the QR code right on your screen right now. It'll take you to our website, foxbaltimore.com, with the latest information, where to find festivals, tree lightings, and so much more.
All
All right, let's take a live look outside right now. Mackenzie, the clouds have moved over and across our region, but it didn't feel bad out there today to me. What did you think?
It wasn't too bad. You could see the clouds coming in. It was nice this morning with the sunshine, though.
Yes.
I did like it. We are seeing some potential for what's coming this weekend. I don't know. Who knows?
You know, and the computer models haven't had much of a clue either. They've been all over the place.
Great.
Been trying to decipher it, and, well...
A foot of snow.
Don't
Fine by me.
go there.
You know me. I would be all about
See, Mackenzie's
that.
from Michigan. She got more snow than you got, Jonathan, in upstate New York.
More snow, please.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe we'll try to get that in by Christmas. We'll see what we can do.
But nothing like that
One
this
can
weekend.
hope.
In any case, okay. Well, we'll enlist Mackenzie's help in any way she can. Let's get right into the forecast here. And, well, the computer models are coming into better agreement, I should say. I'm so used to saying disagreement about this. Better agreement as to what's going to happen Friday night into Saturday morning. And we're going to get to that in a couple of moments here. And snow lovers, you may not be so happy about it. HD radar right now, we've got some showers that are down to our south. That's mainly into Norfolk, Virginia, Richmond, Charlottesville. Now, we'll put this in motion. You'll see there that there is a batch of rain, Charleston to Parkersburg in Virginia, part and parcel actually of that system that looked like it might give us something here Friday night into Saturday. Now, the initial portion of this is going to come through as rain, and it's going to be very sparse. That's why we're seeing some of the extra clouds, though, coming in because of those showers south and west. Boy, look at that traffic on York Road down there. Mile 1 Tallahassee Cam does show us a gray shot. Winds out of the northwest at 5 miles an hour. Helped to scour out finally the fog and even some of the clouds this morning, but we're back at it under the gray skies again with a 57% humidity. Temperatures all across the board, they are at or even a little bit above average for this time of year. In the mid-50s here in Baltimore, 52 at Cockeysville, 50 at Elkton, and 53 at Laurel. Should be in the upper 40s to near 50 this time of year. And I think we may correct that a bit tomorrow, as that little batch of light showers is actually going to help to introduce some cooler air. Notice the 40s with Cleveland at 42 and 45 at Pittsburgh. There are rain showers into western Maryland all the way into West Virginia. Columbus, again, these are the ones that are gradually kind of drying out as they head our way, but that is going to lead in some somewhat cooler air. And then there's the rain and the snow around that low pressure system that's off to our north and west. That's what we were watching for the weekend. Now, for the remainder of the commute, again, you're going to be dealing with those clouds. You can see them here on the future scan. Temperatures falling through the 50s into the 40s. There's that brief shot at some showers through about midnight tonight. That then does move south and east and away for tomorrow. Tomorrow's a cooler day. Highs in the 40s to near 50, but a lot of sun. Been a while since we could say that. And then here it is, the big time, Friday night into Saturday. And what do you see? Not a whole lot. Actually, it looks like some drier air is going to squelch whatever was going to be way down to the south. So there won't really be much of a system to come through here Friday night into Saturday. On Saturday, there could be a stray sprinkle, a better risk of some showers on Sunday, but the highs in the mid to upper 40s. So it looks like just rain and then some on and off rain as we head towards the middle and end of next week as well.
One community member's effort to turn around years of struggles within Baltimore City schools. Project Baltimore hears from a local pastor trying to raise standards and help children. And long known only as the boy in the box, the child in a tragic, decades-old case finally has a name. And caught on camera, a dramatic video of a car crashing right into a donut shop. What happens next as the driver runs off? Making headlines, a big break tonight in Philadelphia's oldest cold case. It's been 65 years since a young child was found dead inside a box. His name never known until today. The case was called The Boy in the Box. The nameless child was discovered in February 1957 in northeast Philadelphia. He was estimated to be between 4 and 6 years old, weighing only 30 pounds and appeared malnourished, revealing scars were also found on the boy's body. Today, police identified him as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Police say his parents are dead, but he does have living relatives.
This is still an active homicide investigation, and we still need the public's help in filling in this child's life story.
The break in the case is due to major advances in DNA technology. Right now, police are still looking into who killed the little boy. And a stolen car crashes into a donut shop in Washington state, and it's all caught on camera. This happened on Tuesday in Auburn. You can see the car violently slamming into the front of the shop, the driver taking off after the crash before the car burst into flames. And get this. This isn't the first time a car has slammed into this same shop. In October, another driver didn't make the turn and smashed into the barriers by the front doors. A little over 4 years ago, a pickup truck smashed into the same spot, almost hitting 2 customers walking into the store.
It's got to be extremely difficult. I can see the guy, when I gave him some funds to help him, he had tears in his eyes, so I know it's heartbreaking to them.
The owners have put up their own barriers and likely kept the car Tuesday night from driving through their business. The driver is still on the run. And he's witnessed the changes Baltimore has gone through over the years. After the break, our exclusive sit down with a local pastor and his efforts to demand better for Baltimore. As state operators prepare to leave the Back River Treatment Center, is Baltimore in a position to retake that plant? The concerns tonight. Plus, what we're learning about a new report detailing years of alleged efforts by the Catholic Church to shield priests from sex abuse lawsuits.
scared, worried, and a little bit angry, to be honest.
Those words coming from eastern Baltimore County, where state oversight of the embattled Back River wastewater treatment plant is set to come to an end.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson has the latest right now from Essex.
The way things stand right now, state environmental officials will leave the Back River wastewater treatment plant at the end of this year, a little over 3 weeks from now, on December 31st. But some say now is not the time for them to go. After days of rain, today finally calm waters along Back River in eastern Baltimore County.
It's beautiful. It doesn't feel like December at all.
But on the other bank sits the Baltimore City-owned Back River wastewater treatment plant. And while neighbors often report a stench in the air.
Almost daily. You smell it coming around the 695 bend from Sparrows Point into Essex. You smell it the opposite direction.
A bigger concern for some is the looming date for Baltimore City DPW to resume full control of the plant.
Will they do the right thing and keep MES on site? I hope so. I think everybody hopes so.
After a state takeover of the plant in March, workers from the Maryland Environmental Service have been boots on the ground, working to get the plant, the largest of its kind in Maryland, into compliance and working order. In October, an extension was approved to keep those state environmental officials on site until December 31st. But that date is just 3 weeks away, and some like the Back River Restoration Committee, which advocates for the health of the river and its community, fearful the plant could lose its forward progress or slide back into disrepair without a level of oversight and accountability in place.
We are worried that they're not going to be able to handle the plant without those eyes on the ground and those folks that are truly knowledgeable in that field. And we're told from several other entities that they are also concerned about the status of the plant if MES were to leave.
In a statement today, the Maryland Department of the Environment telling Fox 45 News, at this time, the amended consent order remains in effect. It terminates if the treatment plant continues to remain in compliance with the effluent standards described in the legal agreement. The city and MES continue negotiations regarding MES remaining on site. Today, Baltimore City DPW saying, in part, the agency has been and continues to be the driving force in the operations and maintenance of the plant. Says DPW is meeting limits of what's being discharged and of 84 active operators at the plant. 80 are city employees, with just 4 from MES. A timeline was not given, but a spokesperson also says, quote, DPW expects key MES staff to continue to oversee critical projects to completion. Meanwhile, questions linger about the impact on this waterfront community if state environmental workers walk out the door at the end of the year.
They know how it should run and how it shouldn't run, and they know that this plant is in desperate need of help. And I've been told by several employees that if they leave, we will be headed towards a catastrophic failure.
Today, I also asked the state if it has confidence in Baltimore City DPW's ability to operate and maintain the Back River plant on its own. That question was not answered. In Essex, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Investigators have released surveillance pictures in connection to the shooting of a teen in southeast Baltimore this past weekend. Baltimore police say they're looking for the driver of this silver Jeep. Saturday afternoon, investigators say a 15-year-old was shot in the leg on North Caroline Street. Now, he is expected to survive. Anyone with information is asked to call police. There's a $4,000 reward in this case.
A new report is detailing efforts by the Catholic Church to limit lawsuits on abuse. According to the Baltimore Sun, the Maryland Catholic Conference, which is the church's public policy arm, has spent more than $200,000 in that effort. They've hired former lawmakers and government officials as lobbyists to stop lawmakers from expanding the statute of limitations on lawsuits. Under state law, child abuse survivors can have until their 38th birthday to file a lawsuit. The Baltimore Archdiocese told the paper they've supported expanding the statute of limitations. Just weeks ago, the state reported they have found more than 100 priests accused of abuse. There's a fight in court right now to make that report public. Declining population, increasing crime, generational poverty. Baltimore, for decades, has been struggling to find solutions.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, one community leader believes the answer to a better future lies within the past.
This is East Baltimore, the east part of East Baltimore.
Pastor P.M. Smith
knows his city.
I've only ever lived in East Baltimore.
Born here in the 1940s.
That whole corner, they drug dealers. Been here for years.
Smith grew up in a Baltimore that's very different than the one he lives in today.
No, they're not on my corner. One of the things is the breakdown of the family. We always have to start there. No consequences here or there, so the result is going to be what? Courts, courtrooms, right? Incarceration, right? We in trouble.
When Smith was young in the 50s, most households, including his own, had two parents. The community worked together and looked out for each other's children.
We never had enough money. It was 6 kids, but there was one message from my parents and from everybody in my community. Boy, you got to get your education. If you get your education, nobody can take it from you.
Back then, Baltimore was a robust city with nearly 400,000 more residents than it has today. But while it was thriving, it was also segregated.
Secondhand facilities, secondhand books, secondhand furniture, but I had first-class teachers.
As a teenager, Smith was part of the 3rd integrated class to attend high school at City College.
That previous generation was aware of segregation and the coming of integration, and they made a decision to prepare some of us to enter those integrated schools and represent our people.
Do you feel the public school system in Baltimore was better in 1950 than it is today?
Absolutely. The standard there was mastery. If you didn't master the subject matter between September and December, you repeated it.
After graduation, Smith attended Coppin State and later earned a law degree from the University of Michigan. Then,
it's home.
He returned to Baltimore.
It's home. And it was almost like I was programmed to come back. This is a community, the community I grew up in, not only birthed me, but they buoyed me, they elevated me and lifted me up, and they set boundaries for me. Amazing is His grace. Is that what we're going to sing this morning?
In the mid-'80s, Smith realized his life was meant for a different purpose.
Come on, let's stand together. I'll call to worship. Deuteronomy 30.
He left his law career and became pastor of Huber Memorial Church in Northeast Baltimore.
That both you and your future.
A few years later, he opened Hope Academy.
Because that's the only way you affect change. You cannot do it from the outside. You can only do it from the inside. And too many in my generation got up, got out, and did not come back.
You're my only friend still in the hallway. Let's go.
His goal? To educate today's students the way he was educated.
Telling your grandfather.
65 years ago.
Now I'm looking at that, looking back. And that is something that we need now. Excellence, mastery, a standard that doesn't deviate, a standard that challenges young folk to measure up to it.
Hope is a K-5 elementary school.
Eyes closed, hands folded. God is great. God is great.
Nearly 100% of its 175 students are African American from single-parent homes.
Amen. Amen.
Here, families pay $4,400 a year to attend. Huber Memorial matches that for a total per-student cost of about $9,000. As a comparison, this year, Baltimore City schools will spend more than $21,000 for each of its roughly 77,000 students.
Money does not solve the problem. Throw all the money you want.
And I get ourselves together.
Hope focuses on the basics, math and reading, while Baltimore City Schools has what's known as a 50% rule, where students cannot receive below a 50 no matter how little work they do. Hope Academy does not have that rule. Students are expected to learn the material before they're promoted.
We value education in a culture that really doesn't. We value education because we know that's the key to the future.
And it seems to be working. In city schools as a whole, the most recent testing shows about 18% of elementary students are proficient in English and 17% in math. At Hope, where students take a test considered equivalent to the state standardized test, 71% of students scored proficient in English. 65% tested proficient in math, which surpasses some of the highest performing public elementary schools in Baltimore, such as Roland Park. Hope Academy recently celebrated its 25th year.
You're gonna be on television, so smile.
Smith,
we got good kids,
is in his 75th, and he plans to spend the rest of his years right here, trying to improve his city.
My wife gave me a challenge. If you're not gonna make things better, we got to move. So I accepted the challenge and tried to make things better. We owe the next generation at least what the previous generation gave us, a basic foundational education upon which we can springboard to the next level. It's critical. We got good kids.
I'm Chris Past, and this is Project Baltimore.
We got good kids.
Montgomery County warning residents hospital beds are filling up. How a combination of the flu, COVID, and RSV continues to strain hospitals.
Safety and security concerns over TikTok. Tonight, parents weighing in on first-of-its-kind lawsuits against the company.
And as we head through the evening commute and overnight hours, things are going to be clearing out eventually after a chance of a shower or sprinkle through about 11 to midnight. Colder, 38 by early morning. Is that going to lead to some snow chance for the weekend? We've been talking about it. We'll break down if it's still there. My Weather Authority forecast.
A warning from Montgomery County that hospitals are at or nearing capacity because of what they're calling the triple-demic. The term describes an increase in flu, RSV, and COVID cases all at the same time. Holy Cross Hospital in Silver Spring and its sister hospital in Germantown seeing around 500 patients per month with upper respiratory infections.
the impact on the emergency room is that the volumes are higher. And as the volumes are higher and we try and see and treat and triage the patients, it also results in longer wait times.
Hospital leaders urging people to avoid visiting the emergency room unless it's an actual emergency. For less serious illnesses, they recommend using urgent care facilities.
And after kind of a gloomy day with a little bit of sunshine early, well, there are more showers. Guess what? They could be moving in for tonight. This is kind of our next, we'll say, minor weather maker that's going to be coming at us. Let's zoom out and put on the national view of the radar. You get a breath of the system that's going to be coming our way. It's associated with some cooler air. There's the rain. Looks like there's a lot of it, right? Well, as it moves up and over the Appalachians, I think a lot of it's going to miss us and a lot of it's going to glance south. A lot of it's going to dry up, too. So, again, maybe a shower chance, slim chance through about midnight. And then we watch that next weather maker that's out to the west around Omaha. It's got some snow with it. Well, I'm going to let you know what that's going to do. Of course, we've been talking about it the past several days with the latest kind of disagreeing computer models. We'll have that in a couple of moments as well. My one Tassacam, 54 now. Cloudy skies after highs in the mid-50s today. Winds out of the northwest at 5, finally clearing out some of that fog, even giving us a little sunshine earlier in the day. The clouds have come back as we expect that sprinkler shower chance into this evening. Temperatures generally in the 50s right now. There's that cooler weather I was talking about. Cleveland all the way to Columbus, back to about Pittsburgh. We have temperatures generally only in the 40s, and we may only make the 40s to near 50 for tomorrow afternoon as this one batch of showers kind of glances down to our south and we get into somewhat cooler air. There's that rain snow system off to the north and west, and we are tracking that as we work on into the weekend. It was Friday night into Saturday, we were thinking, and look, poof, gone. Dry air takes care of it. But there's another one that could move in. That next one over the central U.S. could get here on Sunday, but that looks like it's primarily just rain. So future scan overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. There's that shower risk through about midnight. I think you wake up dry. Temperature is going to be colder, though, in the 30s. By noontime tomorrow in the 40s. And then as we head into our Friday night, we're back down in the 30s, but there's not a whole lot of moisture here to work with. And I think we'll go back to just some clouds on Saturday, maybe a passing sprinkle. Some scattered showers, though, are back for Sunday with highs in the upper 40s there. Then it looks fairly dry and seasonable into early next week.
Coming up at 5, who is monitoring how taxpayer money is being spent? Continuing to press city leaders for answers on the Safe Streets program.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Developing now, Maryland is just the latest state to put a ban on the use of TikTok on government devices. And despite TikTok's claims of policies on youth well-being, lawsuits are renewing concerns about what some call inappropriate and sometimes potentially dangerous content displayed to minors on the app. Didi Gatton reports.
TikTok is on a lot of people's minds right now. On the national level, we've seen lawmakers taking action against the app. But now parents are telling me they're doing everything they can to protect their children online.
Scrolling through TikTok, you're bound to find a challenge.
How to make ammo for your RB's gun.
Or two. Or three.
Benadryl challenge is when you take 12 Benadryls to hallucinate.
Content that has been linked to deadly consequences among America's youth. Parents nationwide voicing their concerns.
It's just becoming harder to shield, youth from certain things.
From a father of 3 to a mother of 4, they're all navigating this new world of social media.
The oldest, yes, she's obviously in charge of all of her own social media. The littles, our 10-year-old and our 8-year-olds, we try to, in our family, limit device use as much as possible.
This week, in the first state lawsuits against TikTok, Indiana's Attorney General sued the Chinese-owned media platform in an effort to keep families like these safe. The complaint calls for transparency on the age appropriateness of its content, further claiming the company deceives people about how much data is collected.
Anything that's directing content that's not youth appropriate towards youth is there's a lot of negative adjectives I could throw out there, but anything in that regard it's disheartening.
Parents trying to get a handle on the 24/7 exposure to content that could be unsafe.
I've seen different TikTok videos too, like via YouTube, and so one of the things that I was big on was just making sure that again there were guardrails up.
Absolutely, we as conscious adults ought to be making better decisions for what we're allowing into our young people's minds. A lot of people with a lot of money in those places don't care so much about the emotional impact and trauma that we're causing young people and what it's causing in our next generation.
These Indiana lawsuits seek emergency injunctive relief and civil penalties against the company. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Didi Gatton.
On Tuesday, Governor Larry Hogan banned TikTok and other Chinese or Russian-based products from devices within the state's executive branch. The governor says the products create an unnecessary cybersecurity risk, making it easier for spies to access valuable information. Maryland is the 4th state to ban TikTok within the executive branch. The Pentagon has banned similar apps from military devices. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5, concerns the city's crime reduction plan will just put more stress on officers. The Baltimore Police Union's reaction to GVRS expanding. And the families of firefighters who died in the line of duty suing Baltimore. Why they say their loved ones' deaths were preventable.
Breaking tonight, the families of 3 fallen Baltimore City firefighters are suing the city. Why they say the deaths could have been prevented.
And how were your tax dollars being spent? Questioning city leaders and organizations connected to the Safe Streets program.
And the Baltimore Police Union calls plans to expand the city's group violence reduction strategy irresponsible. The issue some see with that move.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We're following breaking news tonight. 12 months after 3 Baltimore City firefighters are killed fighting a fire in a vacant house, their families have officially put the city on notice, informing city leaders of their intent to file a lawsuit. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mackenzie Frost in for Mary tonight. The families saying the deaths of the firefighters could have been prevented.
Maxine Stryker has been following this story. She's live right now with the latest. Maxine?
Okay, they plan to sue the city, the fire department, the state, and other entities. And they say this has nothing to do with money, that it's about accountability for the deaths of Kenny Lacayo, Lieutenant Kelsey Sadler, and Lieutenant Paul Buttram, and the injuries of John McMaster. Their families all present here today for that announcement. Now, the lawyers and families say this tragedy on January 24th of this year was completely preventable. They say this home at 205 South Stricker was a death trap, and firefighters had no idea what they were walking into, as the home was not only vacant but had been on fire twice before. Their notice lists several reasons they plan to sue, including the city's vacant home crisis and lack of marking dangerous vacant homes. They say the city and the state have been negligent, and it's time someone is held accountable. Kelsey Sadler's husband, Brandon, says this is about the lives of future firefighters now.
I don't know if anything will help. We're never going to get her back, any of them. But it's going to save other families from having to deal with it later. Because it's never going to stop. These buildings are going to keep falling down. They're going to keep catching on fire. And nobody's going to know. And they're going to go in, and it's going to happen again. And again and again. And the city's not going to care. Again and again and again. And somebody else is going to be standing just like we are.
Yeah, as you can imagine, today difficult for some of the families who have not been back here since the day of the tragedy, when they were waiting for their loved ones to see if they survived or not. Now, this all comes after the investigative report that was released on Friday, a scathing report that listed a lot of failures and recommendations for the fire department moving forward. On that same day, the city's fire chief, Niles Ford, resigned. Now, we did reach out to the mayor's office for comment. They told us they did not have one. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thanks, Maxine. Fox 45 News was first to break word on this lawsuit on our website. You can catch up with all of our previous coverage right now at foxbaltimore.com.
Also breaking tonight, a 14-year-old is shot and another teen is arrested after a shooting this morning at a Maryland school. This is Suitland High School. That's in Prince George's County. Police say a 14-year-old shot another 14-year-old during an argument. Well, sources say the student was shot in the hand. It happened on school grounds near the football field. The incident remains under investigation. We're following multiple stories in a city in crisis tonight. Fox 45 is continuing our investigation into Safe Streets, questioning city leaders about how community-based organizations involved in the program are spending taxpayer dollars.
Plus, the mayor is planning to expand his group violence reduction strategy. The concerns we're hearing from the police union about that plan.
But first, this is a live look right now at Baltimore City Council meeting, where a council member is working to repeal the city's newly passed term limits for elected officials. Minutes from now, Councilman Ryan Dorsey is going to be introducing a bill to repeal term limits just 1 month after an overwhelming majority of voters put them in place. You may remember the term limit vote as question K on your ballot. 72% of voters passed that amendment, but now Councilman Dorsey is proposing another ballot question to appear in 2024. That would repeal the newly established 8-year term limits for elected leaders. It's a move political expert John Deedy calls a slap in the face to voters.
You have a political leader saying, and we don't think you know better. We know better. We should do something about this. And, basically what we should do is, let's pass something that totally, null and voids what voters said they wanted 2 years ago, and let's re-vote on it again. That's what he's really doing.
Fox 45 News reached out to Dorsey several times today requesting a comment. He has ignored those requests. We also reached out to the entire city council. Councilman Yitzi Schleifer was the only one to respond, saying he's against the bill and the council should respect the will of the voters.
Also in a city in crisis, as our investigation into Safe Streets continues, Council President Nick Mosby raising even more questions about the apparent lack of oversight in how the organizations working with the program are spending your tax dollars. I questioned the community-based organizations, or CBOs, about how they are spending the money and why the public doesn't know that information. Inside City Hall, questions about how tax dollars are being spent once the money is given to fund Safe Streets. That's the gun violence prevention and intervention program with 10 different locations all around the city. But where the millions of dollars go once it's given to the community groups remains unclear. Even City Council President Nick Mosby isn't sure. Do you know how the CBOs spend the money?
I don't understand the question.
Do you know how the CBOs are spending the money that the city allocates to them in terms of who they're paying salaries to, how they're funding the training, who does the training?
No, I do not.
Shouldn't you?
Again, the way that you're asking the question, we're doing it in a lump. You have to ask specific questions about specific Safe Streets, about specific organizations.
Come January, Catholic Charities and LifeBridge Health Center for Hope will oversee the Safe Streets programs at all 10 locations. Both nonprofits get money from the taxpayers and have a responsibility to be transparent about where that money is going. So we sent them a few questions asking, how much money do you receive from the city annually for the implementation of Safe Streets? What's the breakdown of your budget for the program? How much will that budget increase when the expansion in programs begins in January? How much is spent on salaries? And what are the salaries for each Safe Streets employee? Catholic Charities ignoring our questions. LifeBridge Health telling Fox 45 News they couldn't meet our deadline for a response. Meanwhile, as the transition continues to put a more centralized management of the Safe Streets program in place, which has been plagued with accountability and performance concerns, Council President Mosby passes off answering questions. Well, the two Safe Streets organizations, the CBOs that will be managing it, Catholic Charities and LifeBridge,
have done an amazing job in the past. So I think your question is probably more germane to the way it was run prior to them taking over. And I think that that's the difficulty or the lack of information that you have to ask a question that is specific.
Well, I mean, we've been asking the city for over a year for this specific information. So if you have that information, I'd love to see it.
I believe the program just recently switched.
Catholic Charities and LifeBridge have always operated some of the Safe Streets locations, though.
I think that's what I just communicated to you. But now they're taking over all of them. Right. So I think that what I communicated to you is that in the past, the way that they've been operating has been pretty sufficient. It's been really good. Now, if your question is about the way other organizations were operating in the past, we would have to talk about the specifics associated with that.
So each CBO spent the money differently, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Where can we see how they spent that money?
Talk to the mayors about that.
The Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, oversees the Safe Streets program, and the director, Shantae Jackson, refuses to sit down for an interview with us to talk about how Safe Streets operates and how the city tracks the spending of your tax dollars. Now, Fox 45 News is committed to demanding accountability from our elected leaders. Just head to foxbaltimore.com to see our continued push for transparency.
We'd like to know what you think. Do you trust city leaders with your tax dollars? So far, 97% of those who responded say no. You can weigh in on our question of the day at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Baltimore police are investigating another homicide. This happened around 9 o'clock this morning. Police say they rushed to a home in northwest Baltimore with a report of an unresponsive man. They found a 32-year-old inside the home who'd been shot. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police were asking anyone in the public, if they have any information, to please share it with them.
This year, 315 people have been killed in Baltimore. At this time last year, 316 people had been killed in the city. On top of this year's killings, 661 people have been shot, although they have survived. That's compared to 666 at this time in 2021. And the violence comes as city leaders announce Baltimore's group violence reduction strategy will be expanding in 2023. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell is live with why the police union believes the move will fail and be an additional strain on officers. Alexa?
Yes, the Baltimore Police Union calling the expansion of this strategy, quote, irresponsible, saying the department needs more officers.
Good afternoon.
Concern as the city prepares to expand the mayor's gun violence reduction strategy, happening now in the Western District to next year, also including the Southwestern District. The Baltimore Police Union today submitting this letter. The FOP president writing in part, GVRS is a personnel-intensive program that requires many more officers than the BPD has at its disposal.
The expansion of GVRS from one district to two does not mean that we replicate the number of people that already exist in the group violence unit.
And so the question, how can BPD successfully expand GVRS, an approach that aims to reduce homicides and shootings by identifying and approaching high-risk individuals with the same amount of manpower? As it stands, there are approximately 442 unfilled sworn positions within the Baltimore Police Department. Statistics from BPD also show more officers are leaving than the number joining the department. As of November, 87 officers have joined the force this year, but 250 officers have left the department. The commissioner admitting the reality behind these numbers will present further challenges as GVRS continues to expand.
That will always present challenges because as you look at the rate we're hiring and the rate people are leaving, and we're trying to bring more people on quickly, and we're trying to keep more people on longer. That's always going to be a challenge, but that's why we have to be smart about the use of our resources, and that's why we have to be smart about the strategy.
But the union argues, and police experts have said, adding more police is the solution. It was the answer to the chaos and violence in Fells Point, the Inner Harbor, and most recently, Federal Hill, the department beefing up patrols in those areas and curbing the violence.
Now, in addition to more officers, the letter also referencing the need for a viable prosecution style. As we know, the city will soon have a new Baltimore City State's Attorney. Reporting live in Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Alexa. Fox 45 has launched a tool to help you keep track of crime in your neighborhood. Alert Nest allows you to track crime to your street. Go to your app store and go to the banner on foxbaltimore.com and download the app by searching for Alert Nest. You can also sign up and have it delivered to your inbox. Coming up, Mayor Brandon Scott is accepting a campaign contribution from a donor he rejected in the past. Fox 45 presses him on what's changed.
And Baltimore is set to take over operations for the Back River treatment plant, but will the city have enough staff to run it?
I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. A new national threat security concern involving a very popular social media site. We'll explain next.
And tracking additional potentials of snow in the forecast and when the chances could be greatest and when they've moved to. That's all coming up. But for now, temperatures in the 50s drop into the 40s for the evening commute. Lots of clouds. I'll let you know the wintry potentials over the next few days in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
She's safe. She's on a plane. She's on her way home. She endured mistreatment in a show trial in Russia with characteristic grit and incredible dignity.
Making headlines right now, WNBA player Brittany Griner is on her way home.
Yeah, the WNBA star has been detained in Russia since February. Yeah. Griner was arrested on drug charges at a Russian airport, testifying she inadvertently packed cannabis oil found in her luggage, and she was sentenced to 9 years in prison. The U.S. agreed to a prisoner swap with Russia for Griner's release, sending convicted arms dealer Victor Bout back to Russia.
Now, the deal notably did not include Paul Whelan, another American the State Department says is wrongfully detained in Russia. The President and State Department say that they are still working to free Paul Whelan.
For totally illegitimate reasons, Russia is treating Paul's case differently than Brittany's.
We've made every possible offer available to us thus far to secure Paul's release. But in this moment, there was no way to bring him home along with Brittany.
Well, Whelan has been detained in Russia for nearly 4 years. Taking on TikTok, the national security threat the FBI is warning about as more states move to block the social media giant. The National Desk, Angela Brown, has the latest.
This is turning into a tidal wave of states taking down TikTok. Texas Governor Greg Abbott directing state agencies to ban TikTok on government devices, including cell phones, laptops, tablets. The governor saying to protect sensitive information. Texas now joining a short but growing list of states banning or exploring banning TikTok on state devices, including Maryland, South Dakota, South Carolina, Nebraska. Soon, more states could be added to this map. We just got our hands on a copy of a letter sent to Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, urging him to ban TikTok on government devices. This coming with a new alert from the FBI cautioning the social media platform is a national security threat.
The Chinese government has shown a willingness to steal Americans' data on a scale that dwarfs any other.
TikTok not directly commenting on all these state bans, but says the safety, privacy, and security of our community is our top priority. TikTok was named the top downloaded app in the first quarter of 2022, according to Sensor Tower. So it's one thing to ban TikTok on state devices, another thing to take it out of the hands of teens, where it's wildly popular. But there is growing bipartisan concern about TikTok, owned by Chinese company ByteDance, having access to user data. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
All right, Mackenzie is here right now. Happy to have Mackenzie here.
Thank you.
Jonathan, it's good to have you.
I would be happier if we had some snow, Jonathan.
She's unabashed about it. She's like, I'm in.
And
Team Snow.
Mackenzie, we don't mean to embarrass you. You're also a very good ice skater.
Thank you. And also
that.
with the last name like Frost, I mean, I have to be.
You can't say no.
Exactly.
That is a good point.
My cousin Jack will be very mad.
Okay.
Haha, Jack Frost.
Have you ice skated so far this year?
No, actually, not downtown. I haven't.
Well,
I need to.
We will have due time for that, Mackenzie, and we'll have some due. I am no ice skater, I'll tell you that. 2 left feet when it comes to ice skating. You take a look here on the HD radar, and not good ice skating weather. Temperatures in the 50s and some showers, some rain moving toward us from the west. Now, this initial batch looks like it's primarily going to fall apart, although there is a shower risk on into this evening. Now, snow lovers, sorry about this for Friday night. It looked like we might have something going with this snow that's up around Rapid City and Omaha. But even that will probably dry out as that weather maker gets a little closer by. But I've been trying to hunt and peck for you on the computer models, and there's still some slight risk of a snowflake or two, and that would be now Saturday night into Sunday. And I'll show you that here in a minute. Don't get too excited, though. 53 on the Toyota East Cedar Harbor Skycam right now. Winds out of the northwest at 5. Temperatures generally in the upper 40s to the low to mid-50s. Had highs in the mid-50s today. There's the colder air that would have made the snow possible up toward Cleveland. That's still going to get here for tomorrow. Some, again, on and off light showers and sprinkles. About a 20% chance we're going to see some of that for this evening. And then cooler air going to sweep in from the north on the northern side of this weather maker as it makes a push toward us and kind of falls apart. And then once that one moves on to the east and dies out, Notice this next one streaking in from portions of the central U.S. down across Dallas, Texas. Eventually, some of that moisture does move north, and I think there's a better risk of getting some showers now for Sunday. And I'm going to track it here on the future scan for you. Initially, you see, again, a couple of showers that start us off here into the overnight hours through about midnight or so. Then that moves out. Tomorrow's a colder day with high temperatures likely in the mid to upper 40s. Some sun, so that's good news. And then on Saturday, a few extra clouds with temperatures in the 40s likely. This actually coming out with some 30s. I think it'll be a little milder than that. Then it gets a little more interesting once again. This is that Midwestern system, the South Central Plains system, moving toward us later on Saturday night, especially Sunday morning. Notice temperatures are dangerously close to freezing north and west, and there's some blue. But this is like Westminster north and westbound mainly, where you could see a couple of flakes mixed in there. Otherwise, scattered showers, I think, on Sunday. And how much you're going to see out of this? Yeah, a paltry 1/10 of an inch of snow potentially on a car top or two up around Westminster. So this does not look like a big deal. But again, it's something we'll track. So Friday into Saturday remains dry. Could see a sprinkle on Saturday, especially Saturday late night into Sunday. Scattered showers could start as a couple of flakes north and west, and then temperatures near normal into early next week.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. One hospital seeing more than 500 patients per month with respiratory illnesses. How the triple-demic, as it's being called, is impacting Maryland medical facilities. Governments lost billions of dollars to unemployment fraud during the pandemic. Tonight, a taxpayer advocate tells Fox 45 how Maryland leaders protected your money.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where we are learning it is no longer just the southern border. Some alarming new numbers of illegal migrants trying to cross at the northern border.
Happening right now, the Biden administration is fighting to keep a public health order limiting migrants from entering the country in place. National correspondent Christine Frizzau reports it's not just the southern border seeing record numbers of people trying to enter the United States.
They are fleeing poverty, violence, and corruption from around the globe. From Cuba to Haiti, where these migrants were returned to their home country. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the entire hemisphere is in the midst of a migration crisis.
We are seeing an unprecedented movement of people from country to country. It is not restricted to the southern border.
The southern border remains the region with the most extreme challenges. But it turns out the numbers are growing exponentially at the northern border as well. In Buffalo, New York last month, there were more than 8,800 migrant encounters compared to 1,400 last year, a more than 500% increase. In CBP sectors in Washington state, more than 4,500 encounters, up from 1,600 the year before, a 180% increase. And in the Swanton sector of Vermont, there were 334 migrant encounters in October, compared to just 43 the year before, a 676% increase. Swanton's border chief tweeting out these photos, adding the migrants are from 19 different countries.
If the asylum system is not fixed, this won't end. If we don't give the Border Patrol more resources, this is not going to end.
This all comes as Title 42, the public health order allowing migrants to be deported before making asylum claims, is set to expire in less than 2 weeks. The Biden administration now fighting to keep it in place for a bit longer.
We're in this very odd situation right now where DHS is in one court asking to extend Title 42 a little longer, and in another court asking to cancel Title 42 altogether. But we're still waiting to try to figure out what happens now.
What happens now, drawing fear and worry from all ends of the border of the United States. I'm Christine Frizzau reporting.
A donation to Mayor Brandon Scott's campaign fund just before a contract was awarded. Fox 45 News presses the mayor on why he accepted the money from a man he once disavowed. And next, fears along the Back River that any progress made at the wastewater treatment plant could be washed away.
scared, worried, and a little bit angry, to be honest.
Tonight, we're hearing from concerns from Eastern Baltimore County residents about what's next for Baltimore City's Back River wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, the plant has been under a consent order with the state since March. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live now with the latest. Amy, what's going on?
Yeah, so since March, workers from the Maryland Environmental Service have been working at the plant under that consent order. But the way things stand right now, that consent order ends in a little over 3 weeks. These Maryland Environmental Service workers have been on site, boots on the ground, helping Baltimore City DPW workers get the plant into compliance and working order. Today, the Maryland Department of the Environment tells me that consent order will end on December 31st if the plant remains in compliance. But the state also tells us that negotiations continue with the city of Baltimore to keep MES on site, and community advocates are telling me now is not the time for this oversight and accountability to come to an end.
Will they do the right thing and keep MES on site? I hope so. I think everybody hopes so. They know how it should run and how it shouldn't run, and they know that this plant is in desperate need of help. And I've been told by several employees that if they leave, we will be headed towards a catastrophic failure.
So, Amy, how is Baltimore City's DPW responding to these concerns? Because clearly people are still worried about the efficacy of the plant and whether any effluent is going into the water.
Yeah, so the city says that it's been in compliance with those effluent limits for many months now. The city also telling me DPW has been and continues to be the driving force in the operations and maintenance of the plant. And while a specific timeline was not provided by city DPW today, I'm told, quote, DPW expects MES staff to continue to oversee critical projects to completion. We'll continue to stay on this and keep you updated in the coming weeks. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Fox 45 News has learned Mayor Brandon Scott is accepting a donation from a man tied to former Mayor Catherine Pugh after returning similar contributions 3 years ago. Fox 45's Jeff Abel asked the mayor what changed.
3 years ago, the mayor refused a campaign contribution from businessman J.P. Grant and called for an investigation. Well, now it appears he's accepted one, and it has ignited a storm of questions.
3, 2, 1.
Minutes after flipping the switch on the holiday lights tonight, we asked the mayor about the campaign contribution he now accepted from the donor he once rejected.
That's a contribution. There's nothing else to say.
You condemned it, though, 3 years ago.
No, I want you to go back and look at what I said 3 years ago. I think that we have a justice process in our city, in our state, in our country, and that was followed.
The latest campaign finance report shows the mayor accepted a $5,000 contribution from Columbia businessman J.P. Grant. The same businessman who, according to court records, illegally gave $170,000 to former Mayor Catherine Pugh. 3 years ago, Mayor Scott returned a contribution he'd received from Grant and called for an investigation.
Shame on the mayor and everyone else over the years that has taken money from people like Mr. Grant.
Grant has been awarded some of the city's most lucrative contracts. In fact, the Baltimore Brew is reporting that a company Grant secretly finances received a $12 million contract just days after contributing to Scott's campaign.
The fact that it's so close to the vote on the commercial utilities contract, did that have anything to do with it?
I think you know me better than to insult my integrity like that. And I don't think you would ask that same questions of some other leaders. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but this is the height of hypocrisy. The mayor campaigned a couple years ago on the promise that he was returning money and ushering in a new era of government. For him to now get into office and take money from those same donors that he earlier disavowed, it's just shameful what we are allowing to happen on our watch.
The mayor did not attend last month's Board of Estimates meeting when that lucrative contract was approved. Instead, his designee, the city administrator, was there to vote in favor of it. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Now, this is the latest news about money coming out of City Hall that's raising some questions. Just last week, the mayor decided to veto a fast-tracked pension bill passed by City Council. The bill would have secured lifetime pensions for part-time jobs for City Council members and the comptroller. And yesterday, the Board of Estimates decided not to discuss the boost in pay for city leaders until after the raises take effect at the start of the new year.
We'd like to know what you think. Do you trust city leaders with your tax dollars? So far, 97% of those who responded say no. You can weigh in on our question of the day at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Making headlines, investigators have released surveillance pictures in connection to the shooting of a teen in Southeast Baltimore this past weekend. Baltimore police say they're looking for the driver of this silver Jeep. Saturday afternoon, investigators say a 15-year-old was shot in the leg on North Caroline Street. He is expected to survive. Anyone with information about the shooting or the SUV is asked to call city police. There is a $4,000 reward in this case. Baltimore police have charged a man for the murder of his own mother. 52-year-old Kevin Burke is accused of killing his mother. Police say they responded to the home on Gainsborough Court in Northeast Baltimore around 3 yesterday afternoon. At the scene, they found a 75-year-old victim with signs of trauma. Officers say Burke told investigators he assaulted his mother during an argument, killing her.
A Frederick County firefighter died in the line of duty last night, battling a fire in his own hometown. Zachary Paris was battling a 3-alarm house fire near Tripoli, Pennsylvania, while volunteering for a local fire department. Paris just graduated from the fire academy this last September. He's survived by his wife and 2 daughters.
A 33-year-old man arrested in connection to shots fired incident in Anne Arundel County. Police responded to reports of gunshots on North Martha Road, that's in Glen Burnie. Around 6 o'clock last night, a caller told officers a person fired a weapon into a backyard inside a home. Now, officers say they went to the home and arrested Jared Lee Church for that shooting. There were no injuries reported.
A new report is detailing efforts by the Catholic Church to help limit lawsuits on abuse. According to the Baltimore Sun, the Maryland Catholic Conference, which is the church's public policy arm, has spent more than $200,000 in that effort. They've hired former lawmakers and government officials as lobbyists to stop lawmakers from expanding the statute of limitations on such lawsuits. Under state law, child abuse survivors have until their 38th birthday to file a lawsuit. The Baltimore Archdiocese told the paper, the Baltimore Sun, they've supported expanding the statute of limitations. Just weeks ago, the state reported they have found more than 100 priests accused of abuse. Right now, there's a fight in court to make that report public.
Across the country, billions of dollars were lost by state governments due to unemployment fraud during the pandemic. Scammers impersonated others and stole enhanced unemployment benefits. Megan Gillen speaks with the taxpayer advocate about how Maryland tried to stop fraud.
It has been more than a year since the COVID-19 enhanced unemployment benefits have expired, and we're now starting to see the massive amount of fraudulent claims paid. New York reporting losses of more than $11 billion to fraud. Maryland officials testifying earlier this week that state officials were able to stop fraud by not paying all claims immediately. David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance weighing in now on what this means for you.
Megan, here's the problem is that the government wants to spend the money quickly. They want to get it to people. So you have these people that are taking advantage of that system because if you delay it, if you do the oversight, it's not going to get to the people. So it's really a tough situation the government's in.
Even though Maryland appears to have stopped a significant amount of fraud, the state was criticized for the backlog of claims. Is there a way to do both, to pay quickly and stop the fraud?
Yeah, there absolutely is. And I think it's funny that Maryland's taking credit for this, but they delayed these payments, and it wasn't because they were looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. It's because they weren't ready for it. And what we have the systems in place now, so God forbid this happens again. There are no excuses for the state of Maryland, for the federal government, and always put money into oversight, into the Inspector General.
David went on to say it is estimated that there's been almost $100 billion in fraud across the country in this one program. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
In tonight's Health Watch, a warning from Montgomery County that hospitals are at or nearing capacity because of what they're calling the triple-demic. The term describes an increase in flu, RSV, and COVID cases all at the same time. Holy Cross Hospital in Silver Spring and its sister hospital in Germantown seeing around 500 patients per month with upper respiratory infections.
The impact on the emergency room is that the volumes are higher. And as the volumes are higher and we try and see and treat and triage the patients, it also results in longer wait times.
Health leaders urging people to avoid visiting the emergency room unless it's an actual emergency. For less serious illnesses, they recommend using urgent care facilities.
Happening today, a late start for the University of Maryland after a power outage shuts down campus. Power has now been restored, but early this morning, the campus was without heat and other basic functions. Normal operations on campus are back up and running. Officials didn't provide details on what caused that outage.
A historic bill passed in the House. The next steps for the Respect for Marriage Act.
A new record of fentanyl seized near the southern border. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington with what groups are increasingly affected by the drug.
And we are tracking the next weather maker with some risk of rain tonight. It looks like overnight we do see some extra clouds. Temperatures falling into the 30s by early tomorrow morning. I'll let you know what the evolving chances of snow are for this weekend, though. We've been talking about it a lot lately, and there's new data. It's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fentanyl continues to cross into the United States at an alarming rate. The deadly drug increasingly impacting young children. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the details on the latest record bust.
In Robstown, Texas, Border Patrol agents last week seizing 25 pounds of fentanyl, enough to kill 5.5 million people, according to the chief agent. The bust setting a new record.
The state of the fentanyl situation in this country is a crisis, and we've got tens of thousands of young Americans that are falling victim to fentanyl.
In San Francisco, a toddler nearly died after finding the drug on the playground. The child's father posting about the incident on Nextdoor, saying the park is right next to a middle school. In Oregon, a mother arrested this week after a 19-month-old overdosed on fentanyl. Another mother arrested in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, after her infant died from fentanyl. And last Friday, a 10th grader in Maryland died from a fatal dose.
We can come to a good conclusion that these drugs are harming our children.
Communities struggling to find solutions.
How do we get into the classroom and how do we educate our students?
Some argue the Biden administration isn't doing enough.
Joe Biden is making a lot of records when it comes to illegal immigration and drugs, but all of them are bad. And so he has really absconded his duties, and Americans feel it.
The problem is that our issues at the southern border have become this bizarre political football, and the fentanyl problem is getting lost in the problem.
The Biden administration did lay out a plan earlier this year to tackle the opioid crisis, including fentanyl. Critics argue the plan doesn't do enough to address how the drugs are getting into the country through the southern border. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
New tonight, a historic vote in the House of Representatives protecting same-sex and interracial marriage. Applause on the House floor as representatives voted to pass the Respect for Marriage Act. The bill now heads to President Joe Biden's desk to be signed into law. The legislation does not codify same-sex marriage into law nationwide, but once it is signed, all states will have to acknowledge gay unions from other states. Also new tonight, children from the age of 6 months to 5 years old are now eligible for updated COVID-19 vaccines. The FDA approving a variant-resistant Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for young children. Pediatricians are concerned with the low number of young kids getting vaccinated. According to the CDC, less than 5% of boys and girls under 5 years old have had their first round of shots. All right, Jonathan, let's take a look at what is going on outside of the snow. I also want to know, when will we see the sun, because it has been so gloomy for the last couple of days.
Mackenzie, we saw it for 2 minutes this morning,
I know, I blinked and I think I missed it.
I know. Well, we're going to have some other chances too, but I think it's also going to come with some cooler air potentially for tomorrow. HT radar showing us a big, kind of threatening looking batch of rain that's out to our west around Charleston, Parkersburg in West Virginia, all the way up to Columbia, Marion, Ohio, and then back down south just west of Richmond down to Charlottesville in Virginia. But you kind of notice the trajectory here. It's going a little bit south of east. So I think as it gets closer, we're going to see some drying with it. And also a lot of it's going to miss us. There could be a sprinkler shower through about midnight tonight. Then that's out of here. Some sun back tomorrow. This is a system that we're watching potentially for Friday night into Saturday morning. You see, look at the pink, the blue, that snow, ice. Well, don't look so much like that's ever going to make it here either at this point. But there's some hope, snow lovers, in the 7-day forecast. Don't get too excited, but I'll tell you when the chances of flakes are the best. That's coming up here in a minute. Mile 1 south of Cam, it's 53, mild. Winds out of the northwest at 5, humidity at 56%. The temperatures right now too warm for a wind chill with a 53 in Baltimore. Some upper 40s north and down south right around 50 degrees. There's the cooler weather. 42 at Cleveland, 44 at Columbus. So temperatures will start getting colder. You will notice that again tomorrow into the weekend. On the weather map there, the showers with the next weather maker. North of it is cooler weather. South of it is the warmer weather that we've been in. That's going to get shunted away, and the cooler temperatures are going to be getting here. Now, tracking this next couple of pairs of weather makers, you see one of them begins moving toward us. This is the one that was going to give us a potential snow Friday night into Saturday. Poof, it pretty much disappears. But then there's another one over the Central Plains Saturday into Sunday that could be moving our way. And again, by that point, temperatures cold enough in spots. Maybe if this stuff kind of times out right, there could be a few wet flakes. And that is probably especially be north and west. Let's go ahead and take a look on the future scan overnight into early tomorrow morning. There's that spot shower or sprinkle through about midnight, then gone. Temperatures in the 30s when you wake up with some sun. Tomorrow into the 40s, and then working our way into Saturday. Again, some clouds here and there. We'll call it a partly cloudy sky overall. Temperatures generally should make it into the 40s one more time. And then the future scan, there you go, gets more interesting Saturday night into Sunday with that Central Plains system arriving. Temperatures just at or above freezing most spots. I think here around the city and the Beltway should just be some showers and rain that move in by about sunrise on Sunday. But north and west, you see hanging on some of that blue, that could be a few wet flakes. And I say wet flakes, Because look, if we get anything, it's probably like on the car tops, and it could be maybe a 1/10 of an inch of snow here up toward Westminster, maybe up like Tawnytown way. There could be a little bit more, but it's probably going to be well under an inch. So nonetheless, for our Friday, 49 degrees, nice looking day, sunshine, clouds and sun Saturday. Sunday, scattered showers could, again, well north and west in the morning, especially have some wet flakes in there. And then near average temperatures in the 40s all the way into the middle of next week.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. A program to prevent drunk driving during the holiday season is making a return. The State Department of Transportation providing rideshare credits to Marylanders to help get them home safe from holiday celebrations. 4,000 Lyft ride credits worth $5 each will be available on Thursdays through Sundays through the end of the month. You can redeem the credit between 4 in the afternoon and 2 in the morning this weekend using the code SAFERIDE2022. And some of you have been sending us your photos, sharing how you're getting ready for the holidays. I love this photo from Michael, his niece Carmen, preparing for her first Christmas. And of course, I love this one too from Karen, her dog Daisy, really getting into the holiday spirit. If you're looking for fun ways to celebrate the holidays, you can scan that QR code you see right there on your screen. It'll take you to our website, foxbaltimore.com, with all of the latest information on where to find festivals, tree lightings, and so much more. Coming up at 6, nearly 1,000 New York Times workers on strike. Why 90% of the workforce is walking out.
No Lamar Jackson at practice for the second straight day as the Ravens gear up for the Steelers. How the offense is preparing without their star quarterback. Coming up next on Sports Unlimited. Welcome into Sports Unlimited as the Ravens get set for their rivalry matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The offensive struggles have been very evident As of late, especially the last 3 games, Greg Roman's unit ranks 23rd in red zone percentage, and that's due to questionable play calling and poor execution. And to make matters worse, the Ravens could be without Lamar Jackson not only for this game, but potentially the next. If that's the case, barring any setbacks, it'll be Tyler Huntley's time to shine, potentially opening the door for the team's backup quarterback to make his first start this season. And offensive coordinator Greg Roman, he has all the faith in the world.
The great thing about Tyler is he's his harshest critic. And when he learns something, he files it and, he kind of takes it personal. So, he's really excited about this, but the fact that he was able to play a stretch of games like that is an amazing experience for him, amazing experience. That's how you get good. You get good at football by playing football. So he was able to play real NFL football, and I think that's really going to help him moving forward. He's improving really in every area, and I don't know if there's one specifically, but I think his teammates, as we mentioned earlier, really have a lot of faith in him.
So while we're on the topic of Greg Roman, Stuart Mandel of The Athletic is reporting that Roman is no longer a candidate for the Stanford head coaching job. We'll be talking Ravens Steelers coming up later on tonight. For now in Owings Mills, Rocco DeSangro for Sports Unlimited.
All right, a lot of folks have been talking about that weekend forecast. Let's get into it in detail. Now, we were talking about Friday night and Saturday morning. The short range, now close range computer models are kind of getting into this time frame. They're saying that's not going to happen. But take a look. Saturday night into Sunday, clouds increase. Temperatures fall to right at or just above freezing. I think most folks started off here as just rain, but well north and west, you do see some of that blue in there. There could be a couple of wet flakes, especially through Sunday morning. So if you're wrapping up some of that raking, as I still know I have to do at the house now that all the leaves are off the trees, or just doing a little yard cleanup, or maybe even trying to do a hike this weekend. Outdoor activities will look sunny and chilly for Friday. Nice looking day Saturday with high temperatures chilly in the 40s, but could see a few showers around again north and west, maybe some wet snowflakes there on Sunday. And then Monday, dry and chilly once again.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, families of firefighters killed on Stricker Street are demanding accountability. Why they say those deaths were completely avoidable. And a live look right now at San Antonio, Texas's Brittany Griner is expected to return from a Russian prison at any moment. Why she wasn't the only person U.S. officials wanted to bring home. The family of fallen firefighters take action. The surviving members are suing the city 11 months after the Stricker Street house fire. why they say that tragedy could have been avoided. Also, members of the City Council work to undo your vote in favor of term limits. Fox 45 News asks why when more than 70% said yes to question K on the ballot. And conditions improve at the Back River wastewater treatment plant. However, some are so concerned about oversight, why some say it's still way too soon to make that decision.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. We begin with new information on the Stricker Street fire that happened earlier this year. 3 Baltimore City firefighters lost their lives in that blaze when a burning home collapsed on top of them. Well, now their families are suing the city of Baltimore. Maxine Stryker explains why.
They plan to sue the city, the state, the fire department, and many other entities because they say this is not about money. It is about accountability for the tragedy that happened here on January 24th, taking the lives of firefighter Kenny Lacayo, Lieutenant Kelsey Sadler, and Lieutenant Paul Buttram. The lawyers and families say the tragedy was completely preventable. They say this home was a death trap and firefighters had no idea what they were walking into. The home had been vacant and had actually been on fire twice before. Once before, firefighters were actually injured fighting a fire here. Now, their notice lists several reasons they plan to sue, including the city's vacant home crisis and lack of marking dangerous vacants. They say the city and state have been negligent and it's time someone is held accountable. Kelsey Sadler's husband, Brandon, spoke today. He says this is about saving the lives of future firefighters now.
I don't know if anything will help. We're never going to get her back, any of them. But it's going to save other families from having to deal with it later. Because it's never going to stop. These buildings are going to keep falling down. They're going to keep catching on fire. And nobody's going to know. And they're going to go in, and it's going to happen again. And again and again. And the city's not going to care. Again and again and again. And somebody else is going to be standing just like we are.
Now, this all comes after that investigative report came out last Friday. It was a scathing report that listed failures of the fire department, and the fire chief, Niles Ford, resigned after it was released. Now, we reached out to the mayor's office for comment. Tonight, they tell us they have no comment. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Also breaking tonight, the Baltimore City Council discusses a bill to repeal term limits for elected leaders 1 month after Baltimore voters approved the measure. Councilman Ryan Dorsey is sponsoring that bill. He questioned the origins of the original ballot question and the precedent term limits could set.
And what we know from the research of legislative term limits in particular is that the people lined up to fill the seat are more likely to have been bought and paid for by wealthy and powerful interests, just like question K itself.
Well, Dorsey is proposing the move to repeal term limits on a separate ballot question in 2024. One political expert calls it a slap in the face to voters.
You have a political leader saying, and we don't think you know better. We know better. We should do something about this. And, basically what we should do is, let's pass something that totally, null and voids what voters said they wanted 2 years ago. And let's re-vote on it again. That's what he's really doing.
Fox 45 News reached out to Dorsey several times requesting a comment. We have not heard back. We also reached out to the 14 other members of the council to see where they stand. Councilman Yitzi Schleifer responded saying that he thinks term limits should stay and that he believes the council should respect the will of the voters. A 14-year-old is in custody tonight, charged with the shooting of another 14-year-old at Suitland High School in Prince George's County. Police there say the student was shot between classes around 10 in the morning. Apparently, an argument turned into a fight, which led to the shooting. Now, sources say that student was shot in the hand. It happened on school grounds near the football field. This incident is now under investigation by Prince George's County Police. New tonight, the Baltimore Police Union is questioning Mayor Brandon Scott's decision to expand his gun violence reduction strategy. The union says the police department doesn't have enough manpower to operate the strategy in both the western and southwestern districts. Police Commissioner Michael Harrison is echoing that concern.
That will always present challenges because as as you look at the rate we're hiring and the rate people are leaving, and we're trying to bring more people on quickly, and we're trying to keep more people on longer. That's always going to be a challenge, but that's why we have to be smart about the use of our resources, and that's why we have to be smart about the strategy.
As it stands, the department is still down more than 400 officers. 87 new officers joined the force this year. However, 250 have left. A Frederick County firefighter has died in the line of duty battling a fire in his hometown. Zachary Paris was battling a 3-alarm fire near Tripoli, Pennsylvania, while volunteering for a local fire department. Paris just graduated from the Fire Academy in September. He is survived by his wife and 2 daughters.
And that I will be faithful.
And bear true allegiance.
And bear true allegiance.
To the state of Maryland.
To the state of Maryland.
And support the Constitution.
And support the Constitution.
And laws thereof.
And laws thereof.
It's been 2 years since Mayor Brandon Scott took an oath promising a 15% reduction in gun violence, among other things. So far, shootings are down this year, but nowhere near that benchmark. Fox 45's Jeff Abel is looking back on what the mayor has accomplished so far and what still needs to be done to fulfill his campaign promises. See his full story tonight at 10 o'clock. State environmental officials are set to leave the Back River wastewater treatment plant at the end of the month, but some in the area say it's not time for the state to go just yet. Fox 45's Amy Simpson explains their concerns.
After days of rain, today finally calm waters along Back River in eastern Baltimore County.
It's beautiful. It doesn't feel like December at all.
But on the other bank sits the Baltimore City-owned Back River wastewater treatment plant. And while neighbors often report a stench in the air.
Almost daily. You smell it coming around the 695 bend from Sparrows Point into Essex. You smell it the opposite direction.
A bigger concern for some is the looming date for Baltimore City DPW to resume full control of the plant.
Will they do the right thing and keep MES on site? I hope so. I think everybody hopes so.
After a state takeover of the plant in March, workers from the Maryland Environmental Service have been boots on the ground, working to get the plant, the largest of its kind in Maryland, into compliance and working order. In October, an extension was approved to keep those state environmental officials on site until December 31st. But that date is just 3 weeks away, and some, like the Back River Restoration Committee, which advocates for the health of the river and its community, fearful the plant could lose its forward progress or slide back into disrepair without a level of oversight and accountability in place.
We are worried that they're not going to be able to handle the plant without those eyes on the ground and those folks that are truly knowledgeable in that field. And we're told from several other entities that they are also concerned about the status of the plant if MES were to leave.
In a statement today, the Maryland Department of the Environment telling Fox 45 News, at this time, the amended consent order remains in effect. It terminates if the treatment plant continues to remain in compliance with the effluent standards described in the legal agreement. The city and MES continue negotiations regarding MES remaining on site. Today, Baltimore City DPW saying, in part, the agency has been and continues to be the driving force in the operations and maintenance of the plant. Says DPW is meeting limits of what's being discharged and of 84 active operators at the plant. 80 are city employees, with just 4 from MES. A timeline was not given, but a spokesperson also says, quote, DPW expects key MES staff to continue to oversee critical projects to completion. Meanwhile, questions linger about the impact on this waterfront community if state environmental workers walk out the door at the end of the year.
They know how it should run and how it shouldn't run, and they know that this plant is in desperate need of help. And I've been told by several employees that if they leave, we will be headed towards a catastrophic failure.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Trending right now, the Baltimore Ravens actually filed to have the phrase Charm City trademarked. Now, it would be used on apparel and souvenirs. Monday, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office gave notice of the initial rejection because Charm City, the city's most recognizable moniker, is just used too much already by businesses, people, even the city of Baltimore itself. The Ravens have 3 months to respond, but for some, this brought back memories of Denise Whiting, former Cafe Hun owner in Hamden, ultimately giving up ownership of the term Hun. Well, more than 1,000 New York Times employees are currently on a 24-hour strike, taking to the streets to demand higher wages. According to the News Guild of New York, more than 90% of Times workers are taking part in the strike. The Times says employees who participate will not be paid for the duration of the strike. And let's go live to the U.S. Capitol right now as the House passes a nearly $900 billion defense bill. A key provision of that bill is striking down a vaccine mandate for U.S. military service members. Congressional Republicans have pushed for the mandate's repeal, saying it's outdated. The bill also includes a 4% pay raise for military members. It now heads to the Senate. Signs of optimism as the world's largest volcano continues to erupt, while local officials are confident about Hawaiians' safety.
And the potential of some rain moving in for tonight. I'm going to let you know if it could change to snow over the weekend. We've been talking about the possibilities, and things are now evolving. I'm going to let you know what the changes are. My Weather Authority forecast.
WNBA star Brittany Griner is released from Russian detainment. I'm Atra El-Nashar with what we're learning about the prisoner swap that set her free and why it didn't include Paul Whelan.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
WNBA star Brittany Griner is set to arrive in San Antonio, Texas at any moment after almost a year in a Russian prison. Her return completes a prisoner exchange, but she wasn't the only person U.S. officials wanted to bring home. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar explains.
News of WNBA star Brittany Griner's release bringing feelings of relief and overwhelming joy for her supporters and family.
Just sincere gratitude for President Biden and his entire administration.
Also in contact with the administration is Paul Whelan's family. His twin brother David says they were given a heads up about the swap that freed Griner and that it would not include Paul. In July, CNN reported the administration originally offered to exchange arms dealer Victor Boot, also known as the Merchant of Death, for both Griner and Whelan. On Thursday, the White House said it was a one-for-one deal.
That was always the goal, to get both of them home, and we just couldn't make it work. This was the deal we could get, and now was the moment we could get it.
Whelan telling CNN Thursday Russia is singling him out, pointing to a fellow prisoner also from a Western country.
Even though we're both here for espionage, I'm treated much differently than he is. And my treatment is also much different than others held for espionage at other prisons.
There are worries about the danger that comes with returning Boot back to Russia in exchange for Griner's release.
This will only beget more Americans being taken on specious charges, much like Brittany Griner, much like Paul Whelan were taken, right? These aren't comparable. This guy was a bad guy, moving arms around the world, threatening the United States of America.
Mickey Bergman works in hostage negotiations and told our chief political correspondent Scott Thuman earlier this year, while nobody likes releasing guilty people in return for the innocent, he's come to develop a strong opinion about doing what it takes to get Americans back home.
And there's a price that we might not like, but we have to pay for it because it's our obligation to bring them back home.
As for whether this trade incentivizes hostile countries to detain more Americans, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says that's already something Russia and other countries have proven they're willing to do. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar.
Well, the State Department says it worked tirelessly to secure the prisoner swap, offering further explanation as to why Paul Whelan wasn't part of the deal.
This was not a choice about which American to bring home. The choice was, in this instance, one or none, because unfortunately, Russia has continued to see Paul's case through the lens of sham espionage charges, and they are treating him differently.
Blinken says the State Department has made every offer possible to secure Whelan's release. Suspected UVA shooter Chris Jones Jr. appeared in court for the first time today. He's accused of killing 3 UVA football players and injuring 2 others as a group returned from a school field trip last month. A preliminary hearing is set for March 30th. The lava still gushes from Mauna Loa in Hawaii, but some good news as scientists say the lava is no longer a threat to a key highway nearby. And in fact, Jonathan, you were recently in Hawaii with your family. And did you see anything while you were there?
You know, you don't realize how large Hawaii is.
Yes.
We were on Maui, and we saw the ash plume, but it was from a snorkeling boat. It was about 150 miles away. So I actually have it on my Facebook page. So if you want to go in there, you can see it archived on my page. But it's just basically a cloud in the far distance. But boy, those are some pictures that are coming in. I'm glad I wasn't that close. That's for sure.
You don't want to be that close.
Yeah. So, all right. I was on a totally different island. Anyway, but now I'm back here with you in Maryland. You can see the occasional rain and the sprinkles, the drizzle just out to our west. As that moves eastbound, looks like we're going to dry some of that out. There could be a light shower or a spritz as we head into the early overnight hours through about, say, midnight. Then that's going to pass east, and then we look at this to the north. Look at all the winter storm warnings as well as some winter weather advisories. There's snow, there's ice here into portions of the upper Midwest. The question is that going to hold together and make it here Friday night into Saturday, as we're potentially talking about over the past several days on some of the longer range computer forecast models? And, well, we'll get into that in a minute. But 51 degrees right now in the Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam. Winds out of the north-northeast at 8 miles an hour. Humidity 63%. That easterly direction helping us to increase clouds once again. Temperatures are in the upper 40s to around 50 pretty much area-wide. There's colder numbers north and west. Those are going to be pushing at us in the wake of some of the clouds and a couple of the light showers into this evening through about the midnight hour. Then cooler weather gets here, and then there's that next weather maker that begins to pull in from the west. Let's go ahead and take a look through the day on Saturday. So as we head into the overnight hours tonight, you see that chance of a sprinkle or shower here or there. Friday, that storm begins moving at us, but look, it just poof, disappears over the Appalachians. Dry air kind of eats this thing up. Then Saturday, yet another storm system pushing closer. That's one to watch. Now it looks like, yes, maybe not Friday night and Saturday morning any snow, but there could be a couple of wet flakes now. It looks like Saturday night into Sunday morning. Don't get too excited, though. You'll see what I mean here in a second. On the future scan, through about 9, 10 o'clock tonight, maybe midnight, there could be a shower, a spritz, some clearing into tomorrow. Sunshine, high temperatures generally in the 40s to near 50. And then on Saturday, starts cold. If there were anything falling, there potentially would have been snow, but it looks like the storm system just not there. And then Saturday night into Sunday, here we go, temperatures right at or above freezing, especially north and west. You see the green moving in there. That's some of the rain. Some of the blue, that's maybe a couple of wet snowflakes, especially, say, Carroll County, Hereford Zone, north and west. Now, the amount's not very large. 1/10 of an inch of snow maybe on a few car tops here toward Westminster. That's what we'll be tracking into early Sunday. I'll let you know if there are any additional snow chances in the exclusive 10-day forecast. That's coming up in a couple of minutes.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Pawleys Island, South Carolina is where this beautiful moonrise was captured last night. Located south of Myrtle Beach, the barrier island has many homes dating back to the 1700s. And this morning's sunrise in Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains turned the clouds orange and even a little blue. The Blue Ridge stretch from Pennsylvania to Georgia and are part of the larger Appalachian Mountain Range.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
A generous gift will make the holiday season easier for children of the military and military heroes. The National Desk Angela Brown explains.
My name is Jake, and I grew up on a farm in Michigan.
Jake's hero is his dad, veteran Sergeant Timothy Lane, U.S. Marine Corps, who once protected a president.
He followed Bill Clinton wherever he went.
Service in Sergeant Lane's blood, becoming a Michigan State trooper after leaving the Marines until the accident.
After that accident, he kind of fell and hit his head. There were some dormant symptoms of PTSD that started to arise.
Sergeant Lane lost his job, devastating financially, because his income the sole income. At the same time, his mom battling breast cancer, putting Jake's college dreams in jeopardy.
You're also thinking about, how am I going to pay for this college thing, right? There's a huge price tag on it.
That's where the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation entered Jake's life.
We're the largest provider of needs-based financial aid to the military.
We sat down with Ted Probert, president of the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, after being awarded its largest gift, $65 million from FedEx founder and Marine Corps veteran Fred Smith, to create thousands of scholarships.
It's actually had a tremendous impact because it's allowed them to experience the college education without having to secure a job or take on debt.
Students like Jake graduating from the University of Michigan in December debt-free.
We got connected with the MCSF and I received a scholarship. That was, a huge light in a pretty dark tunnel for my family.
More than ever, my dad is my hero.
Honoring his dad's service by supporting the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation.
It makes my heart very happy knowing that there will be other stories like mine.
This major gift of $65 million will not only help the children of Marines, but the foundation will be providing scholarships for the children of Navy sailors studying STEM or health sciences. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
All right, taking a look at your exclusive 10-day forecast. We're going to have temperatures up to 49 degrees for tomorrow, so cooler than today, cooler than the mid-50s, but sun comes back. Then it's dry Friday night into Saturday, but then Saturday night into Sunday may get a little more interesting, especially early Sunday morning. Well north and west, the temperatures are in the low to mid-30s. There could be a few wet flakes mixed in as scattered showers develop here. Scattered showers on and off on Sunday, increasing some back from Monday highs close to 50, 49 on Tuesday, partial sun Wednesday. Current indications are with some of the computer models Thursday could have some rain next week, and there could even be a little bit of snow mixing in with that, so that's something to watch closely. It's still far out, and then near or below seasonable into next weekend.
Jonathan, thank you. It's almost time for the FIFA World Cup quarterfinals in Qatar. Soccer lasts a long time. The action begins with the doubleheader on Friday as Croatia plays Brazil at 10 a.m. Then the Netherlands takes on Argentina at 2 p.m. Catch both matches right here on Fox 45. Well, that's all for us on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock. Family Feud is next. We'll see you again tonight with Maxine Stryker at 10 o'clock.